get my fingers to cooperate here. Yep, I know I'm gonna slice myself with this damn box cutter, and immediately did it. Assembled rotor. All right, here it is a couple days later. Let me go trim this radio way down so that music playing in the background doesn't get my video killed by YouTube. A couple days later, out here in the garage, and we are working on the 63 again. I gotta get my eyeballs over here so I can see what I'm doing when I get up close. So, one of the things that I planned on doing from the get-go with this, after getting it, was getting rid of this giant beast. This is a factory Ford distributor cap. You can kind of see the difference in size. This should sit down about yay high, so it's going to sit considerably lower, and it's a lot smaller in diameter. So I've got a new distributor coming. I had ordered a brand new production Cardone, C-A-R-D-O-N-E distributor for this engine from Summit Racing, which it was supposed to be a replica of the original Ford distributors. Well, it's not to spec. I'm planning on putting a Pertronix igniter electronic ignition in it. So I got it, opened it up, pulled the rotor off, and the cam that's in there for the points is significantly smaller in diameter than a factory Ford one, which meant the part that goes in there for the Pertronix would not fit. It just sat on there and spun freely. So it's Summit Racing. Thankfully, there's returns are very easy to deal with. So I sent it back and I ordered an actual Pertronix distributor, brand new production with the electronic ignition already in. It's going to cost me more because I already had a Pertronix drop-in points replacement system sitting on the shelf, but there's nothing I can do. I don't have a factory 289 small block Ford distributor, and the multiple Ford distributors I have laying around will not fit. So at one point today, hopefully, because it says it's on the truck for delivery, I'll be swapping this out for a more correct sized and looking distributor. But in the meantime, I got to clean up some of this wiring. So this carburetor is a Carter AFB, one of their competition series carburetors. It's basically the same carburetor that Edelbrock is now marketing as an Edelbrock carburetor. Same design, parts are interchangeable, not much different. This one at some point had an electric choke on it. Somebody has removed the entire choke assembly and hardwired it open so that the choke doesn't function. But when they put the choke in, they ran some wiring here, and they ran it directly from the starter solenoid. And when they did it, they used speaker wiring. That may not even be speaker wire. I don't know what it is, but it's going bye-bye. I got to remove all that. It's just garbage. In addition to the electric choke wiring, I got to clean up the wiring that's going to that. You know what? Before I accidentally arc this, let me just cut these off over here and I'll remove them later. I don't care about this wiring. Let's get this out of here. Come on, let go. There we go. Garbage. Get rid of that. I do need to replace this dipstick. I don't know where the hell this dipstick came from, but it is not right. I have another one for it. Let's see here. That's a 1/2 inch or 9/16. Speak of the devil, I think my distributor just arrived. Box from Summit Racing? Awesome. All right, all good?
Yeah, there you go.
Cool, thank you much.
Of course, I love the Galaxie.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right. look at that. Box from Summit Racing. And I'm gonna take a wild guess and say there's a Pertronix distributor in here. And a coil. Let's see what we got here. Hey, look at that. There is a Pertronix flamethrower coil for the Pertronix distributor. So what I'm checking for now, my engine's actually like 2 degrees off from top dead center. So what I want to look at is see if the distributor is pointing at the number 1 cylinder or the number, or the number 6. All right, get that out of the way. So it's actually pointed at number 6. It's 180 degrees out. Let's turn this engine over 180, or 1 full rotation, which will be 180 degrees on the distributor. Sounds like it's got good compression. I can actually hear it building up, and I can feel it while I'm fighting it. All right, we're getting close. And there's my mark. There is top dead center. All right, so that's the only wire that will stay there. This is all loose. I just need to pull off the clamp. So there's my Pertronix distributor. Looks just like a factory Ford one. The only difference, the only thing you can tell visibly besides the sticker on here, which if you really wanted to, you could remove that. But there's 2 wires coming out of here instead of 1. That's the only thing visible from the outside of the engine, or outside of the distributor cap. All right, 1/2 inch wrench. All right, there's the clamp. This car doesn't have the big giant shelf on the front that my other car does. All right, so the clamp is off. Just want to make sure there's nothing there that's going to fall in the engine when I pull that out. So let me grab a little compressed air here. And I should probably turn the valve on at the compressor. Whew, glad I did that. There was a bunch of stuff hiding in there. All right. Hang that there. All right, I'm gonna pull that old distributor out. What the shit? That is not the drive that should be on the bottom of that. At least not every... Is this a 2-piece setup? What is going on in here? Yeah, the rest of that came apart and is sitting down in there. What in the hell? All right, so let me show you what we got here and why I'm wondering what the shit is going on. Here we go. This is how Ford distributors are. Timing gear, this interacts with your camshaft. This is what turns your distributor. Your oil pump plugs into here. It's a 5/16 6-sided shaft. For that matter, I got one laying around here somewhere I could show you. Anyway, so that's what the bottom of, that's what I expected the bottom of this to look like. That is obviously not the same. I don't know if this is supposed to come apart or if it just fell apart inside my engine. But I got to see if I can figure out how to get the other half of this out of there. This is going to be interesting. How about some needle nose? Let me see. Get this out of the way before I knock it over and break it. Get these out of the way since it's just got a whole lot more interesting. All right. Get my light over here so I can see what the hell I'm doing. And let's see if I can reach this. Oh, I can. Will it move? Yep. All right. So, that does not appear that it's actually designed to clamp on. This is like a two-piece installation deal. Drop that in and then put that distributor in. That is not going back in, but at least I know what the hell's going on now. I feel a little better. Not as complicated as I thought it was going to be. All right, so now let me get my Ford distributor. Turn my rotor about the direction I want it pointed. I got to put a little bit of oil on this. Got anything here? I do. That's garbage. There we go. You don't want to put in what I'm doing. Let me come back over to the camera there. So what I'm doing here, there's an O-ring here that seals the hole that this goes in so that water doesn't get in the engine and oil doesn't come pouring out. You don't want to stuff O-rings, rubber O-rings in when they're dry. It can cause them to tear. And then they don't seal. So a little bit of oil on there. Get the distributor pointed where I want it. And this guy should fuel line's gonna have to get rerouted for sure. Get a screwdriver, which I just had. Oh, Amazon's here with more parts. All right, let's get this rerouted. There, now I can route that around. Jeez, they got a lot of fuel hose on here. I'm just gonna leave it loose for now. As far as the line goes, not as far as the fuel fitting goes. I've learned, tighten that fuel fitting up when you're doing it. What could possibly happen? Oh, I don't know, engine fire. I don't know, you might forget that you didn't tighten that up. Go to start the car, gas spray everywhere, ignite, about burn your car down. You know, nothing big. All right, that's out of the way of the distributor now. This is okay, I'm okay with this point in here. Let's see, get that up so that it doesn't get in the way. Same with that one. Just wiggle it a little bit, see if it goes in. It is not, so I'm gonna put my breaker bar down here on my motor and crank it back and forth a couple times. Well, I got it in. The camera had probably stopped by the time it went in. You can see how much smaller it is than that HEI style distributor. This vacuum hose goes right on here. Let's put those clamps on, hold that in place. Let's see here. All right, clamps are on. This is number one. All right, I gotta undo some of this electrical tape that's on here because this has clearly been redone. All right, knife time. Man, I cannot get my fingers to cooperate here. I know I'm gonna slice myself with this damn box cutter, and immediately did it. So this is going to go to the power wire, to the positive on my coil. This should hopefully, yep, should fit right there. First time I did this, it took a little bit of reading the instructions. I know instructions are for sissies. Took a little bit of reading instructions to figure out what I was doing. This is probably, I don't know, the fifth or sixth one of these I've installed. So at this point, I kind of have it down. Oh, of course, you couldn't see me doing any of that because I had the camera zoomed in too much. Awesome. Good camera work, Matt. All right. Distributor's on. It's wired. Hopefully you got to see that. Plug wires are on. Everything's hooked back up. In order to set the timing on this, I do need to disconnect the vacuum advance. All right. Everything's in place. Got my timing light right here. Let's see what happens when I try and start this thing. All right, let's see. Do I have gas? Do I have light? I do have power. I got nothing going on there. So, let's see if I advance this just a little bit. Oh shit, that's leaking. Look at that, imagine that, a gas line leaking, in my luck. Maybe I should clamp that a little tighter. Oh yeah, that was loose. What could possibly go wrong with a little bit of a leak in gas, right? Let me dry that off so I can tell again next time if it's leaking. All right, gave it a little bit of advance on the timing. What did I do with that vacuum cap they gave me? There it is. All right, let's see what we're at on timing. Shit, right at top dead center. Let's give it some advance. Turn, there we go. There's about 10 degrees. Give it a hair more. There's that. Idle's a little high now. There's the idle adjustment right here. Why is the idle adjustment not lowering it? There we go. That's a reasonable idle. Lifter tick seems to have gone away. Well, that's interesting. The throttle linkage is, well, I'm getting rid of this carburetor anyway. It's not going all the way back to idle. We'll deal with that later. There should be bottomed out. Yep, that's bottomed out. Return spring's not strong enough. I got plenty more return springs. So, there you have it. Looks like a Ford distributor. Doesn't look like a Chevy distributor anymore. All right, cool. All right, so let's talk about what we're doing here real quick. This car, when I bought it, had all kinds of stuff that was done. It looked like something I would have built when I was 16 years old. Poor choices of parts that went together. The intake manifold that's on here is a high-rise single-plane manifold. The engine is a stock 289 two-barrel engine. The camshaft is a stock 289 two-barrel cam. That stock camshaft, for people who don't understand, camshaft that's what gives your engine its power band. That's what determines how the engine's going to make power. A stock 289 two-barrel cam is a low RPM, low power, low horsepower, typically high torque camshaft. It's designed for low RPM use, daily driving kind of stuff. This intake manifold is designed for racing. It is a 2500 to 6500 RPM camshaft. Sorry, 2500 to 6500 RPM intake manifold with a camshaft that's designed for power from like 800 RPM to about maybe 5000 RPM. So the two don't go well together. If you don't understand the difference between a single plane and a dual plane manifold, and you want to learn a little bit, there's an episode of Engine Masters on Motor Trend. It is season 3, episode 4, or episode 33, depending on how you look it up. And they talk about the difference between dual plane and single plane manifolds. They're using a Ford 351 Windsor, which is a small block Ford. So basically the same engine as this, bigger displacement, different firing order. So I would look at that episode. About 6-minute mark is where David Freiberger starts talking about the differences between the manifolds and their intended use. On top of that, it had when I bought this, had a Carter 600 CFM, I think it's a 600 CFM carburetor on here. The carburetor somebody had removed the choke from it. It was just slapped on there and it ran. It actually ran pretty decent. Didn't have a lot of power, but it idled smooth. It did have some funky hesitations. This is a Holley Brawler. I already swapped this out 2 days ago. It's not my ideal choice in carburetor to put on this particular carburetor, because this is a 600 vacuum secondary. I'm sorry, this is a 650 cc. Holy crap, it's early. This is a 650 CFM double pumper, mechanical secondary. I would much rather have something for this engine in the 550 to 600 CFM vacuum secondary range. I'm trying to do this car on the cheap. Carburetors start at $400 and go up from there. I had this one on the shelf, so that saves me $400. The intake manifold I'm putting on this is sitting right here on the bench. This is a Ford Motorsport, Ford Racing, dual plane, small block intake manifold. Nothing fancy. The reason I chose this one is, other than the Chinese made ones, for that matter, this is probably made in China, let's be honest, but it does say Ford on it. Other than the Summit Racing brand, store brand, this was the cheapest dual plane intake manifold I could find on Summit Racing. All right, so we're gonna get to work here. One of the first things I need to do, since I'm gonna be taking the intake manifold off and coolant runs through that, plus I'm changing the water pump anyway, I gotta drain the radiator. I'm not worried about getting everything out of the bottom of the block, but I do need to get most of it emptied out. So I've got by the way, this is it's like an animal feed trough thing that I picked up at, oops, I didn't wipe that off very well. I picked it up at Tractor Supply, and I can't remember how much I paid for it, but it has proven to be excellent for draining radiators, putting underneath an engine that you're working on that's dropping fluids all over the place, because it's huge. It holds, I think it's like 15 gallons, which is gonna be way more than I'm ever gonna need. And it's very large, so when you're draining a radiator and it's splashing off everything, it catches it all. It's made by Tough Stuff Products, and it appears to be pretty chemical resistant as well, because I've been using this quite a bit. I've hit it with brake clean to clean it. It's had engine oil in it, it's had antifreeze in it, nothing has seemed to affect it. So if you need something like a very large drain pan, highly recommend it. Well, I might as well start taking off the pulleys and the fan belts. All right, there's that. I am glad to see that the fluid in my radiator actually looks like antifreeze, not a chocolate milkshake or a pile of liquid rust. All right, electric fan is out. So before I take the intake manifold off, I want to take the water pump off since I'm replacing it anyway. That will help drain any extra coolant out of the top of the engine, because I don't want coolant leaking down into my oil when I do this swap here. Everything is off of the water pump, so that means I can pull the water pump out now. Yep, there it goes. Ooh, this is different than my new one. Here is the back side of the water pump that just came out. Here's the back side of the water pump that I was sold. So I'm gonna have to go figure out what I need to do to find this water pump as opposed to this, and then I gotta dig up the box that I just crushed for this so I can return it. So in the meantime, I can get back to swapping my intake manifold here. Let me get this carburetor out of the way. All right, there's those. Carburetor will come right off. I think before I pull this intake off, I'm gonna pull this thermostat housing off just to make sure there's no water sitting in the manifold. All right, everything is unbolted from the intake manifold. I need to clean it off. All right, so I've got a total of 12 intake manifold bolts that I need to remove. And you know what? I'm feeling a little lazy. I'm gonna go the easy route. All right. That should be all of them. But once again, before I pull this thing off, I'm gonna hit this with the shop vac again. Oh, these are all rusty, crusty bolts. I bought some new stainless ones yesterday. I'm gonna use those. They're only 5/16. There's not a real high torque value on them. And they won't rust and look like crap. All right, you can actually see what I'm doing there. I am gonna be trying to, hopefully this just pops right up. There she blows. Stuck on the rear, which is normal. All right, let's get that out of there. And let's take a look in here. Actually, inside here looks pretty damn good. Everything's clean. The lifters look clean. There's not a bunch of, let me pull these gloves off. So, looking in here, there's the hole where the distributor goes. There's some garbage that I forgot to vacuum up, but I'm gonna leave it for where it's at for now, because if I start vacuuming now, I might suck it up into the valley here. So I'm gonna have to swap out the intake manifold gaskets, but the lifter valley looks really good. The push rods are all nice and clean, lifters are clean, the cast iron doesn't have any big gross deposits. Let me wander over here and I'll show you the difference between this and my kid's 392 barrel out of his T-Bird, which is sitting on the engine stand right next to us. So if you look in here, you can see all that grime and slime that's built up in there. You look at the main caps, they got all kinds of garbage built up on them. This engine was abused. It still runs. We're not too worried about it's not getting a new engine, but you can see the difference. And if I were to pull the the intake manifold off of this, the lifter valley would look very much like that does, not like this. This is clean. That looks good. That makes me happy. All right, it's time to start swapping cleaning up some old intake manifold gaskets and get the new one ready to go on. Okay, intake manifold is all ready to go on. I got this stuff all cleaned up in here. I'm actually ready for the water pump as well, but I'm still waiting for it. So I'm going to put the intake manifold on while we wait. The only thing I got to do now is clean off the sealing surface on the heads. Get any kind of residue off of here. We're going to be putting sealant on it, nice and clean surface. That's looking okay there. Let's get this side. So there's little thin bits of RTV from one of the previous installs of an intake manifold. My guess is the last one that was on there because it's the same color that was on the gaskets. I'm just trying to clean that off so that the new stuff has a nice clean surface to adhere to. I don't want my intake manifold sucking water in. The rest of these are going to seal well. I've never had an intake runner leak on me. So I'm not too concerned about them. I am still cleaning them, obviously. I want this whole thing to seal good. And I don't want this last water jacket in the cylinder head to leak anywhere either. So cleaning that up as best I can. So that will also adhere. Let's clean that off. Let's get that out of there. If you're one of the 3 people that watched my engine build video for the Blue Boat motor, you've seen me do this, but in a much more comfortable location on an engine stand versus in the engine compartment. It's a lot easier to do it there. Although this intake manifold is a lot easier to do than the one in the boat. I'm not using anything fancy for cleaning this. This is just brake clean. Just something to cut the grease and leave me a fairly clean surface. All right, that's gross. Let's keep going. Don't get that off of there. All right. Get another clean spot on my rag here. All right, one more clean spot. Oh, and the front valley. So, somebody in the past has taken a center punch and dimpled this little valley section here. And I know why they did that. They did that because it put a little rough edge. They got it on the rear one as well to help the intake manifold gasket there not slip. Because the stock gasket for that sealing surface is just a chunk of cork. And they tend to, when you got sealing material on there and you squish an intake manifold down on them, they want to move around on you sometimes. That is not ideal. So I am going to come over here. I got my new intake gaskets. And I'm going to give myself, actually I'm going to do it on the gasket because I know where that sealing surface is. Versus doing it on the head, I might miss. Okay, there's that one, and then the rear I need to do as well. All right, there's one gasket. This is the driver's side. Okay. All right, there's that. Let's do the passenger side. All I'm doing is just putting a little thin layer of RTV around the water jacket seal hole in the gasket, just to make sure it seals. The rest of the gasket will be fine. So that's the front water jacket, and then this one here is the rear. The front one I did cut that little leg out, and it matches the port perfectly. This one I'm not too concerned about it because there is no, I mean I need it to seal, but I don't need to worry about interfering with flow because there is no flow through the manifold on this one. So that's the rear. Here's my front. Trying to keep your finger out of the RTV mat. There's that one. And there is that one. Push that in place. All right. Wipe this off. So now I'm going to do the same thing again on the intake manifold side of the same ports. Okay, there's that one. Okay, one more. Okay, there's the water jackets. Now I need to do the valley lip, ridge, whatever you want to call it. And I need to do that thick enough. I need to lay a bead, which would be easier if I had a caulk gun with RTV in it, but I don't. All right, there's that one. Let's see here, this is gonna be a little bit big. I don't want it there. Let's do this one as well. All right, there's that. Now I need to do the same thing on the front. All right. There she blows. Where is my cap for this? What the hell do I do with it? Shit. Ugh. I don't know what I did with the cap. Thought I'd set it right there. Did I knock it on the floor? Well, I don't know where it is. I'm gonna stop worrying about it. All right, here comes the intake. So what I gotta try and do here is wiggle it under this valve cover, line these holes up, and then set it down in place. And I'm looking good. All right, so torque sequence for this intake. 1, 2. So what they initially want is 5 pounds. I don't have a torque wrench that goes down to 5 pounds. So I'm gonna do these just by feel. All right, intake manifold is on and torqued. Carb is on, just sitting there, started hooking things up and realized the camera wasn't recording. So the camera's recording again. All right, intake is on, bolted down, the carb is snug. The throttle blades do not hit the intake. So the next thing to go back in here is gonna be my distributor. All right, so stopped filming there because I was going back and forth between working on this and helping my kid work on his. So the new water pump is in. Everything's in. I've got gas in the carburetor. So if I guesstimated the timing close, it should fire. New intake manifold, new water pump. See what happens. Well, it started. Let's see here. I need to check my timing. All right, let's see where we're at on initial timing. Oh, wow, we're way. That's weird. The timing's jumping all over the place. Okay, that's just intake noise. I'm gonna guess this thing's got a lot of manifold vacuum. I don't know what that squealing noise is. Sounds like it's coming from near the alternator. All right, water pump is done. Speaking of water pump, I just stepped on the old one. So I got a nice shiny new water pump in there. There's my drain pan from this morning. And the new intake manifold is on. Carburetor sits significantly lower in the car. The throttle linkage, I had to redo all of that because it was way different. Car fires up, idle's perfect. I do have that squeaking noise coming out of the alternator. Everything in here looks really good. I'm happy with how it's turning out until I go like that. And I gotta put this crappy little air cleaner back on here just because I refuse to drive a car without an air cleaner on it. But that will be getting replaced with a more appropriately sized air cleaner. So it is test drive time. Alrighty, it is time for a test drive. Hopefully nothing blows up. Let's see where we go. Other than the noise the alternator's making now. Damn it, that radiator's hot. It's only the third time I've burned myself today. I think I'd figure that out, but I'm not that smart. Let's get this out of here. All right, that was an extra hose clamp that I don't need. Seems to be running good. No complaints. All right, so just as a quick follow-up here to end of this video, I did a few things. The alternator noise that you heard in that video there required a new alternator. The new alternator had a single fan belt pulley on it, so dropped one of the belts off of there. Not a huge deal, still got a good belt. The carburetor, I now have a more appropriate carburetor on here. That is it was like a 804, I can't remember what the model number Holley is. It's a 600 vacuum secondary, electric choke, Ford carburetor. It came off of, I bought it used off of Facebook Marketplace. Came off of I think he said it was a 68 Mustang. It had the throttle plate at the bottom there. You might notice the linkage. All looks brand new, because it is. The throttle plate at the bottom of the carburetor, when I bought it, the throttle plate was toast. It was worn out, had huge vacuum leaks. So I bought a new throttle plate from Holley, put it all back together. It's working perfect. I have an appropriately sized air cleaner now, not that tiny little thing. Everything has been working great. Been driving this thing to and from work, and it's actually been very reliable, and it's enjoyable to drive. And believe it or not, considering the size of this vehicle, I'm getting really decent gas mileage out of it. I mean, decent for what it is. It actually gets better gas mileage than my kid's 2007 V6 Mustang. So no complaints. And I'm going to chalk this up to it. This has been a success.